Hey, I'm Sebastian Gutierrez, and I'm the director of Elektra Luxx.
Hello, I'm Carly Gugino. We're here in Austin, and I play Elektra Luxx.
Hi, I'm Malin Ackerman, and I play Trixie.
All right, thank you so much for sitting with us. We really appreciate it. First, just want to say, from what we saw, the film is great. Played really well with the audience, and we really look forward to seeing the rest of it. So, mentioning that, the elephant in the room, I feel. How do you guys think Lost is going to end?
We know, we really do know. Malin, take it.
Well, of the many episodes of Lost that I have watched,
Probably the cast
it's
of
going to
heroes
end on
will
a
crash
night,
there.
I'm sure. Some people might die, some people might survive.
We definitely have inside information, we just can't share it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
MacGruber is involved.
So how did you guys feel seeing that audience response, people staying and just really engaging you guys on stage?
That was pretty amazing. I mean, it was such a crazy moment when, cause it's always it's such a magical feeling. The reason that obviously we make movies is you make them because you love what you do, but then there's a point at which you have to give it away. And so to be in a theater with 1,000 people or however many were at the Paramount last night, and everyone totally in it and zoned in on it, you could just feel that. And then when the screen all of a sudden went black, and Sebastian jumped up from his chair, I was just like, oh no, and it was kind of incredible that and then sort of he became he channeled some sort of stand-up comedian, but it was amazing when we got up there and on stage and realized that the theater was pretty much still full. I mean, very very few people left, and really that meant so much, I think, to us, because again, as movie lovers, to have a bunch of people there sort of sticking with you till the bitter end to see if we could get that thing up and running.
Yeah, it was cool.
Really meant a lot.
I think it's a testament to how well the film was doing up until that point. I think people were really enjoying it, so that was kind of exciting. Thank you. None. Virgin margaritas.
Lemonade.
It's much later than 8 o'clock in the morning, right? This is,
Yeah,
I think it's
8:30.
4.
Totally
evening.
normal. No validation needed here. So. Now, for those people who didn't unfortunately get a chance to check out Women in Trouble, can you describe the transition from that film to Elektra Luxx?
Yeah, I mean, Women in Trouble really was a little experiment. We just had one scene, and we thought, can we write 9 more segments and shoot them together? It was very rough around the edges and, made at the house. Elektra Luxx is a little more ambitious, and it was a very clear goal from the beginning of not making the same movie again. Obviously, the first one's very episodic. This one follows more one character, and in a way is sort of, this comedy-tinged melodrama of one day in the life of this woman and who she interacts with in that day. So I think because the movie uses elements of other genres, it was very clear for me. I'm like, well, let's not do the same 10 episodes here. This movie uses elements of musicals, uses elements of, there's a whole black and white flashback to the 1950s. It was what was the question? This margarita is really good.
The transition
for
from
people that
Elektra
didn't
Luxx.
see Women in Trouble to see this one, I would say you don't need to see Women in Trouble to see this one, because basically the Joe Gordon-Levitt character, who was teased in the first movie, is acting as a sort of narrator to the story and getting you in there. Really, about the only characters that aren't quite explained are the Adrian Palicki and Manuel Shrieky character. That it helps if you've seen the first one.
And also, it's just kind of, it definitely stands alone as its own film. But there are some great, you obviously saw Women in Trouble, sort of like the elevator sequence, or certain things that are callbacks to the first movie that are sort of, that was another cool thing because Women in Trouble premiered here, to have those moments where people, there's an inside joke to some extent, or sort of paying homage to the first movie, and people really got it, and you wonder if they will. So it was. But I think all these characters, and certainly, Trixie, Malin's character, is not in the first film, and Timothy Oliphant, and Kathleen Quinlan, and Emma Bell, and there's so many new characters that get introduced that, yeah.
I'd say if you hated Women in Trouble, you will probably love Elektra Luxx.
And if you
but the
loved
opposite
Women in
is not
Trouble,
true.
You will love
Right.
Elektra Luxx as well.
I'm sure there's some way of
How
spinning
is that
that.
margarita?
It's really good.
Is yours
It's really
really
strong. Yeah. I'm sure there's a bumper sticker way of explaining that better.
I could stop recording for a while if you guys just want to order a couple more.
That'll be good. No, I'd say they're
get a lot more
definitely related movies, but I think they're more like cousins than sisters. So I think if you were not sure about Women in Trouble, give this one a chance.
All I think Women in Trouble was fantastic. So
Women in
definitely
Trouble.
give this one.
Definitely, we agree. Now you mentioned Joe Gordon-Levitt. Now, the expansion of his character,
Yes.
was that more like a demand thing? Like were people calling for that, or like?
Voters, letters.
Yeah.
My email box full.
You know what happened? I mean, it was such a fun day when we shot that scene with Annie, Adrian Palicki, and Joe and I, because it all of a sudden there was this dynamic that sometimes you never know, how something like that is going to play, and we had so much fun, and he was so hilarious
So good as
as that character, and Joe doesn't, I'm sure he will have opportunities in his life as an actor to do everything, but he hasn't gotten to do as much comedy as I think he could as an adult. Like he is so funny, and he's such a funny human being and so precise with his comedy that I just remember after we finished that scene, Sebastian was like, we got to have like much more of this guy. And
I actually started writing a lot of Burt Rodriguez right after that because the scene that's in Women in Trouble, which was never intended to be in the movie, it's just we liked it so much that it was put there after the credits as a sort of teaser for this character. And Joe and I then started talking about maybe doing webisodes with this character, Burt Rodriguez. So I wrote a bunch of episodes. And that idea is still floating there because Joe is really involved in that world. And in fact, he's doing a movie right now, but he was going to be here with hitrecord.org, so we thought we could do one of the Burt Rodriguez episodes live here while we're at South by Southwest. I don't know what's going to happen with that because now he's filming something else. But when it came time to write the sequel, it became very clear, like, well, we have our narrator already built into the story, and he can bring people up to date. So some of the original scripts that were written as webisodes were adapted to sort of integrate him into the story, and now he's become the sort of our town narrator of Elektra Luxx.
Now, I just want to know, like, where do you come from where you can write these, like, real, genuine, strong women in your films?
Where do I come from, like, geographically?
No, like, where do you get that from? Just being able to write to the female perspective so well.
Well, I mean, thank you. I'll accept the compliment. I really like women, and that sounds so horribly pretentious. I grew up in a household of women, so I was always surrounded by women, and I just really, I don't know that much about football, when I hang out with guys, so if I'm at a table with a bunch of women, I'm sort of intrigued by what they're talking about, and I just sort of take notes. Maybe you guys can answer this better than me.
yeah, I can't really answer about the where you come from part of it. No, but I do think it it's so exciting to have someone who, I think what's so strange is that it is unusual to have somebody write complex women's roles, because as we know, men are really complex and women are really complex, and you think that there would be
men are not that complex.
They're not that
but you'd think that there'd be somebody who that wouldn't be so unusual, but it is. You definitely have. I think it is true that you do have a true appreciation for all things, the craziness of women.
Are you okay over here?
Are you getting this? I don't know what is going on.
Cameras are right on you right now, so.
Are you crying? You need to spit something out? This is not unusual,
It's called
which is
tired.
what's
Virgin margarita.
these virgin margaritas. Yeah, look, I think part of it too is because these movies by necessity are so dialogue heavy, because the schedule is so short, the way that the story is being told is through characters and dialogue, that by necessity then you need the women to be talking a lot. So you can't make that too boring. So as a screenwriter, you need to come up with things that they can be talking about that are interesting. I don't think those things are necessarily that different between men and women, and I think that's part of the trick, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's like, well, write for a guy and then change the name to a woman. It's just that it is so underexplored what women are really talking about that I can't take too much credit for it, other than it's like there's a big gap there because nobody's doing it. And obviously it's my version of it. I'm not purporting to be the person that knows women inside out, but I am interested in what they talk about, and it's different than what guys say.
Now you mentioned a short shooting schedule. Women in Trouble took 10 days, and Elektra Luxx took 15. So,
Yes.
like, what took so long?
It was crazy. It was crazy. Well, the idea with Elektra Luxx, the idea with Women in Trouble was to try and do 10 pages a day. And here the idea was, well, what if we could do 5 pages every day? Which would have been 20 days, but we didn't quite have 20 days. We just wanted to spend, written into the script were these sequences, like a song and dance number. There were things that I knew would take a little bit more time because we had no idea how to do them, really. And they would take a little bit of rehearsal and locations that were different than just shooting in a living room. So I basically wanted to do less longer days and more have schedule for the actors because a lot of it was relying on Carla to not have it be 14, 16-hour days every day, but actually make it a shorter schedule.
And also there were a couple of days, one of the cool advantages of it being sort of such a small kind of family-like project with everybody is that there were a couple days that we shot later that were, to figuring out what pieces, how the movie worked, and
not later like in the afternoon, but later.
Yes, at another time.
A couple months later.
And so that ended up adding up to the final 15-day count.
Yes, you should ask Mullen something. I know you haven't seen her section.
We
Just
really
ask her
don't
anything.
I'm fine over here.
Actually, I mean, a really good question then, because people always wonder like how you can get like an amazing cast like this on such a small budget, and I mean, like how does that happen? Especially coming like both of you coming from such big productions traditionally, and
I think this is, these are opportunities that come along every now and then. As you said, it's so well written for women. You'd be a fool to pass on something like this, and I think Sebastian really has a knack for it, and not only that, but he's a fantastic director and a friend, and it's comfortable and there's respect, and it really is something that feeds the soul, which all actors look for. You do some for the money and some for the love, and most of them are something that you absolutely love, but this is really all together. The script and the characters are they all fall together so beautifully. So I think, it's a matter of 10 days or 15 days of shooting of your life, and you've done something amazing. So I don't think it's hard for Sebastian to reel in this amazing cast when you have good material. It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think again, and this is people who are really fortunate because we get some really cool roles. And I've been doing this since I was a kid, so I feel like a lucky person. But it also is so often your part is figuring out how do I fill in this character and make her more human, or how do I give depth and make her there's only so much on the page, or how in 5 scenes do you create this kind of arc that you might want, or whatever. And I think that to have somebody who actually has really thought these things out also. And I mean, the thing about Sebastian that's really interesting, having made a bunch of movies together, is that there are very few questions that you'll ask him that he hasn't thought about before. So that's actually such a great thing. So and because there's a level of confidence, a level of specificity in what he does, there's then this sense of collaboration. It's like it's always the most secure directors that allow for collaboration, the most insecure directors that are like, no, you cannot do this or change a word, And so I think the combination of really good material and a great work environment makes it, and a short time span makes it like a dream,
Yeah.
a dream to be able to do.
Dream.
now, it's a very funny film. So, like, I'm just wondering, were there any moments on set that were a little bit funnier than, something you really like to share?
Did anything funny happen? What happened on set?
That was a really good day.
Yeah, what are some good stories? Well, the good news is we can cut this and then come back to what happened funny. Let's think. Women in Trouble really had more mishaps as far as indie filmmaking. And like one day we were shooting the scene in the elevator between Carla and Connie Britton, where it's supposed to be the hottest day of the year, and they're sitting there.
I was talking about this last night, yeah.
Yeah, but what we didn't talk about was they had double booked this warehouse we were working at, and there was also I hear all this noise upstairs, and I run up because we have no AD, no nothing, and there's these like 20 guys that look like a casting call from like Die Hard 2, like 1988. They're all wearing like tie-dye jeans, and they all look like Michael Bolton or something, like weird mullets.
So really hip dudes, right?
And they have a motorcycle, and they're doing this weird like, I don't know, from the Armenian gypsy music video. I'm like, you guys can't be doing this. We're in the middle of shooting. So we had Elektra Luxx was a
It was a little
calmer. It didn't have those insane indie no budget films.
I mean, definitely on the note of just things that are funny. As Sebastian was showing me the posters of Elektra Luxx for approval, those were the moments I was like, oh my lord! I never ever thought I would be.
Well, we have to send the art department to Kinko's to make copies of these posters. They're like the fake porn posters, and they're all called like There Will Be Head and stuff like that, or Fast Times at Electra High or whatever. So that was funny, like they have to deal with that. Even reverse cowgirls get the blues or whatever, and coming up with that artwork is sort of.
Well, and then what you have not seen yet. There's a little tag at the end of this movie that's actually where there was sort of more
Yes, which
Yeah,
we can't
more
really.
goofy stuff that,
Can we
that
give
we
it
can
away?
discuss with you later or not. I don't know.
Well, we could give it away because by the time this comes out, will you have seen the movie? We're trying to have a midnight screening tonight. I don't know if you've seen the Neil Marshall movie. You might. But yeah, you are. I don't know if somebody's coming from Film School Reject.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we'll have at least a couple guys there.
There's a trailer. I guess we could talk about it. There's a trailer for the Western that Carla's character that Elektra Luxx was doing in the first movie, called Even Reverse Cowgirls Get the Blues with Adrian Palicki. And so we actually have the full trailer in this one, in the end titles. And we had to, and it's shot beautifully at this ranch, at this Western ranch, and it was really funny.
I mean, it's
Shooting
a
about
full
that day.
trailer of porn,
Like a
but of
spaghetti
course the funny
Western.
thing about trailers of porn is they can't show anything anyway. Like if you look at any one of them online, so it's really funny. So it's like it cuts right before
All the
any
bad
sort of
moments of dialogue in between before the sex scenes happen. And where we were
very
shooting,
fun to do.
the word spread that they thought we were actually making a porn movie.
Yeah.
And they freaked out because Disney was doing some show on the same lot at the same time. I was like, you guys, we're not looking at who the actors are. And they were like, they put some people babysitting us because I'm sure, by the way, they probably have done porn in that place. And that's why they were so paranoid. They didn't want to lose the Disney thing. So it was a weird thing. We're like, you guys, we're just making fun of it. We're not actually shooting a porn movie. So there were those moments.
Actually, going back to that, because that was one of my questions, what is the brainstorming process like for fake porn titles?
Well, I think everybody kind of, don't you do that? Like everybody, like anytime you hear
A
a
little more
title, you're
revealing,
like,
perhaps,
every
about
Thursday
Sebastian's.
night.
Exactly, I was going to say Sebastian's personality.
I'm saying,
but
it's like you
no.
often see, it's all those like in Diana Jones or whatever, it's like all those titles are always like, oh, yeah, great porn titles. So that's actually some of the funnest stuff because often those titles that they do for the spoof porns are, for the most part, better than the movies. But it's just, fun to. I thought, there will be head. It's pretty good. It's
You
pretty
ever heard
obvious.
that you're supposed to do your first pet's name? And
Yes, and your
For your
street,
name,
right?
for your
Yeah.
name.
porno name?
Yeah, for your porn.
What would be yours?
What's yours, Brian?
What was your first pet's name and your first
And your
street?
street.
My first pet's name, Penny, and then the street I grew up on was, Dudley.
Penny
Dudley.
Dudley.
That's
But I'm a
Actually more
dude, so
That's a great
You could
one.
be
Yeah.
Penn Dudley.
yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or-
And then my
or Penn
middle initial would
Studley.
be S.
Or Penn.
Penn
Penn-
S. Dudley.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
fantastic.
Penis Dudley? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Or
Penis Dudley.
Penn
That's
Studley.
the best one I've heard.
Penn Studley. You have the greatest porn name
You
ever.
do. I mean,
That's amazing. What would yours be?
Mine would be Ringo Hahn.
wow.
She's sort of an Asian, like Ringo Lam, but Ringo
That
Lam.
is
She's sort of-
What would
hilarious.
yours be? What would your guys be?
Mine would be, mine would be Tim El Cafetal.
Wow.
The street name was El Capital.
El Cafetal.
Capital.
Pretty sure that was the name of the street.
Tim El Capital.
Tim El Cafetal.
Mine is really weird because my brother, my stepbrother named our first dog, and the dog's name was Biff.
Biff and Penn Studley.
Great one.
I think it'd be Biff.
She's not even drinking beer.
I'm not literally. It would be Biff Crespo.
Wow.
That's a
Biff
great one,
Crespo.
too.
Biff Crespo.
Oh, my
Ringo
Lord.
Hahn. And Tim El Cafetal in a new movie
Starring-
by
I mean,
Penn
Starring Pennis Dudley.
Dudley.
It works.
amazing.
It really does.
It all
I think we
works.
got
That's the
something
thing.
going here.
Are
You
we
guys.
going to do a quadrilogy now then?
Exactly.
It all works.
So, did you end up finding yourself writing yourself into any of the characters in the film?
I mean, I think always, as silly as that sounds, because a lot of situations here are sort of, enhanced or outrageous, but yeah, I think, whoever much smarter than me said that all writing is, autobiographical and the rest is plagiarism is true. It's like you end up putting stuff of yourself in every character. Probably the character that I relate to the most is Holly Rocket, which is funny to people because they consider her the dumb blonde. But what I mean by that is that I think we're all trying to be cool, and nobody's really cool. We're all dorky, and I relate to that the most, And I think that she's so misunderstood because it's so easy for people to laugh at her. But then you see that she's not really dumb. She's just not quite on the same wavelength as everybody else, And I think I feel that, so.
I love that scene that she has where she says, has everyone been given a manual because I feel like I'm
Yeah.
so.
I haven't seen it.
What? Spoiler alert.
I haven't seen that scene yet.
You'll love it.
But
You'll
yes.
love it. Oh,
It
it's
is. It
such
is
a beautiful
actually.
scene too.
Well, it's sort of the culmination of what you witnessed as their story that really does come to a.
But I was in this story, Elektra is her way into the stories anyway, and she is. I'm interested in her as far as putting something of myself into, I am interested in that moment we've all had at different times where you know better than to be doing something and yet you're doing that, and it's a matter of how do you deal with that situation. You know, you never had that, you know, self-reflection. It's not part of Mullen's makeup.
Always.
The Swedes, they don't. They just ski.
Just ski.
That's it.
It's great. It's a great life. You
Yeah.
just ski through life.
Do everything on skis there then?
On water, on snow. You know,
Like party with
in your
skis
living room.
on?
Always.
Really?
Skis with rollers.
There's a whole thing about Swedish people in the movie. That
Bikinis,
Roberta Levitt goes into.
skiing.
Yeah.
If it
and
wasn't
it's
for
funny
Swedish movies in
because-
the 1960s, all movies today would be about robots.
That was a
Love
good
it.
line.
That's
That was a really good
great
line.
line. I really appreciated that.
It's true.
Now, Malin, are you able to talk about your role at all? Because we don't want to spoil anything, obviously, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think I can talk
Because
about
she
it.
actually is kind of set up in the scene
Yeah,
with
she's
Olive,
mentioned. You
right?
just
Yeah.
don't know who she is. Trixie.
In that
So
scene,
check
yeah.
out her.
Check out Girl at a Drugstore, and she's, you know, she's in love with Joey Gordon-Levitt's character, Bert, and there's actually a really sweet scene where we finally get to meet Trixie, and she's taken some pictures for.
Well, you don't have to tell what happens in
Okay,
the scene.
never mind. It's a really sweet scene that you're gonna have to. She's, you know, she is not a porn star and does not become a porn star
In any way.
anyway. So that's part of her character, but she ends
Mullen
up
can't say
becoming.
much about it. Is the truth.
I don't know what to say because you haven't seen
Yeah.
it without
Yeah.
giving anything away. So you'll just have to see the end. But she's sweet.
She
say
really
that-
is. It's I can say
Innocent.
as somebody who always loves working with Mullen and also seeing her work is that it's a totally different character than I've ever seen you play, and she really is sort of like an innocent and yet kind of the one who still has to wake him up to who he
Sort of ground.
really is in love with, really.
Yeah.
You know, as the woman sometimes like, hey, I'm right here. You know, this is the moment where you need to see what's in front of you, but in the most kind of innocent of ways, and it's really a beautiful
She's
scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
Now, because there's such a strong cast, I have to ask both of you, if you had a chance to switch with anybody as far as roles go in the film, like who would you guys switch with?
Interesting.
That is interesting. Well, I can say something when I read the first script, when I read Women in
Talking
Trouble.
about this one.
Oh, we can talk about both.
She's not allowed.
No. When I read the first one, I kind of knew I wasn't really right for Holly Rocket, but Holly Rocket is such a fun character, and it's funny because now it's like seeing Annie Palicki do it. It's like I can't even imagine it, but that was definitely a character that I just was like, oh my god, this would be so fun to play. Also because so often I kind of started doing comedy, and then I've been doing such sort of serious material for a while that I just loved the levity of that character.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, we found so much comedy in Elektra as well. But that would be the one that when I first read it, I was like, that character is awesome.
What about you?
I would love to be the Boy Scout in the beginning of the film who almost gets it on with Elektra Luxx. That'd be fantastic. No, I also really love Holly Rocket.
We could
she's
probably
phenomenal.
make that work.
You could. I mean, we could
We
try.
can make arrangements
Try. Okay.
for that.
We'll figure it out maybe in the
DVD
third
extra.
Women in
DVD.
Ecstasy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Holly Rocket is a fabulous character.
Yeah.
Brendan's not even paying attention, you know. We're just talking here. He's not even
But he's got it on tape. So.
Now,
Did you turn that thing on?
no, it hasn't been rolling
Just
at all.
checking.
We're just chatting.
Good.
I'm nervous.
So I always like to hear creativity from talented people. So given the fact that, you know, what could have been like a really bad situation, what you guys turned into a really great situation last night, it made me think of those, like, you know, do your own adventure books, like when you were kids. So like, and I know you're probably gonna hate this, but like if you guys could like make your own ending for the film, like where would it go? The most creative thing that you can come up with.
Did you have a thought of that? Because actually we know where it goes, which makes it
Yeah.
much harder to answer that question.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did you
Well, we know
did
what
you
happens.
have like a thing where you were like, this might be the thing that
We
happens?
should turn the flip video over to you, because now you have to answer. What did you
Oh,
think was going to happen?
I can't do that because I don't want to. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to take away from your film
But I can't
because
tell because I know how it ends. I can make up a different ending if you want. The
Yeah,
bad
absolutely.
reverse psychology.
Trixie turns into a Boy Scout. I think that should be the alternative.
Trixie turns into a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
All right.
And
I was thinking Tim Oliphant would like shave his head, get like a 45.
yeah.
Kill
You
everybody.
know, like
That'd be
Hitman
cool.
style. You know.
Right. Okay.
That could have
What did you
gone.
think, Noah?
I'm at a loss.
You lost me on creative people. I was like, well, you're talking to the wrong crowd, man. I don't know what I'm going to come up with here.
You know what's interesting, and I know it's going to sound like super serious in response to that really good question, by the way, but is that the way that it ends, there's so many elements to the way this movie comes together at the end that I'm like, I don't even know how he figured it. Like, I don't know even how you made all the stories come together in the way that you do.
Wow,
So
you're really
in-
setting me up
no,
for disaster here. People will be
no,
like,
no.
the most mind-blowing ending since...
No. But what I mean is, like, all
Success.
of those you saw, like, there's so many different threads, and they all come together. So I'm like, I'd have to have a good amount of time to think about a better way to end it. Than that.
You're gonna
It
have
is
to
a really
edit.
good ending.
You're gonna have to edit this question and the answer.
They're not going to be disappointed. It's
There's no way out
fantastic,
of
I
this.
think. You're going to love it.
Well, if we can end on one thing, because we are
Yes.
film school rejects, do you guys have any reject moments that you know you would just like really like to share with us? I know
Oh my God,
it's
story
it's
of my
humbling, but yeah.
Really? I don't want to relive that.
Being rejected.
Being rejected.
Let's just say
Give us an
that
example. Like what?
I have a good one.
We got a chance to talk with Nimrod Antal, the
Yeah.
director of Predators, and usually we hear career stories, and he was just like, yeah, you know, I was a chubby kid with braces named Nimrod, so my whole life was kind of like,
Rejected, yeah.
you know,
Right.
so you know,
Totally.
and I always hear funny other stories, but you know, we always just like to hear them.
Yeah.
I was I had braces and a flat chest and gawky and pigeon-toed, and so, you know, I was the last person that guys would ever look at in high school until the braces came off and they got a little bit of boo. Then there was a bit more, but yeah, definitely not an attractive look, and especially when you come out from lunchtime and you've got spinach in your teeth and you don't realize. I was an awkward child.
You still do
I still
that.
am awkward.
No, the spinach stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good one.
Well,
still
no,
feel
I was
rejected.
just gonna say that I did have an audition. It is a work thing, but it was kind of like a great horrible moment in that way, which is that I had auditioned for this big Hollywood movie, and I went in, and this was, you know, very young, just hadn't been acting for that long, but I went in and I went in, I'm like crying I just go through the whole thing, and it's like, and it's one of those ones that's like turns out amazing, and you're like, that I really did what I wanted to do, and the casting director looks at me, she's like, you actresses like you are the reasons why I do this, and you are just so authentic and so beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, and I just am blown away, whatever. So I leave, and I'm just on the, you know, just over the moon. I call my agents, I'm like, it went amazing, and I said, so let me know what they say. Sure that I had gotten it, and they called back and they were like, well, they said you were great and everything, but you just slipped through the cracks. You just slipped through the cracks, and I was like, how can a person slip through the cracks? Exactly. I was like, I don't even understand it. And they were like, well, the two women, and the theory was like I was two this for one and two this for the other, and two exactly, and
5'10"
yeah,
instead of
whatever the
5'11".
thing was. But I was literally like, wow, I slipped through the cracks. That is one of those total reject moments that I'll never forget, because it definitely made me take things less personally, though, because I was like, I don't even understand it, and and I know, you know, so that's what.
yeah, well, at least it wasn't you personally being rejected, at least you were just in the cracks, so they couldn't...
Exactly. I just wasn't really registered.
Well, now you guys are both working with Sebastian, and you know, and with two great films.
I will never reject him. I never got into film school. I was rejected. So there we have it.
You're part of our brood. All right. Well, thank you
need to go
guys
to
for
movies.
sitting with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
so
a lot.
much.
So good to meet you.